Okay, welcome back to another episode of Leading from Home. It's Friday, and some of you, before people start looking at this, what's Sean wearing this crazy stuff for? These are pajamas from Qantas, for those who have flown with Qantas before. And you might ask, why am I wearing pajamas? Well, we'll come to that later, but I'm not having bad fashion sense. It's pajamas. But later that. Madeline, Phil, how are things over your end of on a Friday at home?
It's good. Thank you. Good to be back here. Lots of energy and happy Friday. How about you, Phil?
Hey, thanks, Madeline. Well, unlike pajamas, it's now a classic British summer and I'm back into my winter clothes. And so having enjoyed 2 months of unbroken sunshine, June arrived with rain and cold.
Well, normally summer begins in June, so if the UK, as usual, is unsynchronized with the seasonal calendar, so oh well. At least we can look at our, which is a good sort of connection to our background. So at least we've all got the summer feeling in the background. Again, without being synchronized, we all have water and boats and beaches. So that's still, guys. Phil, what's in your background today?
Okay, thanks, Sean. This is Porthmadog Harbour. So if you look into the background there, I've just dodged out the way. You might just be able to make out the narrow gauge steam railway that goes up into the old slate mines. And that's a beautiful, beautiful harbour that was built about 150 years ago.
And then on your left, on your right-hand shoulder, that's your boat. I'm guessing the big catamaran you got back to the yacht club.
I wish.
Some nice looking boats down there. So yeah, well, hopefully these borders get opened up soon, so you can soon enjoy it. And some of us who have never been there, I think you're a good ambassador for Wales. I've never been there before, so
you'll be coming, I'm sure.
Exactly. And Madeline, I know being here in Sweden, I recognise one of those islands. But which one? Whereabouts you in the Stockholm archipelago?
It's the island of Sandhamn. We also have Sandhamn Seglarhotellet, which is a really nice little hotel, and it's normally a lot of parties here in summertime, but it's also a beautiful, beautiful spot in the Swedish archipelago.
Just looking at the water, you haven't photoshopped that water. Like, is that water? Is that like properly still? Like, it's almost like powder water. Is that
but that's the way how it is out there. It's just so beautiful.
Incredible. Yeah. Well, again, as us being tourist ambassadors, people, Wales, Sweden, get no better places to check out. And then for me, if I look at water, like last week, I mean, well, you can't see my water. France, you can pay me some money. I'm ambassading your south of France. Mediterranean water, as always, is but everybody knows France, how nice the beaches are, so no surprise there. But I'm hoping that I get to France this summertime, but the way things are going with these restrictions is probably unlikely, so this is as close as I'm going to get to France, I think, this summertime. So I know we always kick off with, since we like to lead from home and we are leaders in terms of our habits and new changes. Phil, how is the stand-up desk going since you are bracing the wave of stand-up newbies? You haven't turned back. It's
never.
How are you feeling?
No, never. Feeling good, and basically selling the idea to anybody and everybody as I get the chance. Ran a couple of workshops this week, virtual workshops, of course. Taking great advantage of being able to do things like this.
Fantastic. And, spontaneous.
It just makes such a difference.
Yep.
So loving it. Thank you.
And Madeline, besides, I want to get to your baking very soon, because as you mentioned last week, you had 2 parties which you're baking, which I've found the photos of your cakes, which people are going to be surprised that you're not a professional baker when they see this. But before that, any big developments that you kept promising some changes? Anything from your end?
Thanks for asking, Phil. Of course, because I can also do this.
Yeah,
Phil, standing up, and I feel stupid to say so, but it feels amazing. I've had back pains for the last couple of weeks and tried standing up, and the back pains were gone. So a standing up desk. Now I'm joining the club.
See, there we go. Everybody,
I sincerely say thank you for the push, Phil. I appreciate it.
There you go, Phil. You haven't just influenced the audience. You've actually influenced our panel, because, obviously, I've always been on the stand-up desk, but now all three of us are leading from example once again. Stand-up desk is the way to go. It works from home rather than this crouching and sore backs and the front end of the screen. People try it. If you doubt it, try it out. Trust three of us. We've got three independent people.
And Sean, I saw this from a little video. If you don't want to go the whole hog and invest in a desk yet, try an ironing board. Everybody's got an ironing board at home. You can use that. You can raise it up to a nice decent height and just check it out.
Yeah, exactly. As I say, don't feel you have to go all in. People that I think gradually ease into it, but most people that I've spoken to, once they go to stand-up desk, they go back, and it's not just the body posture, but as we're working more and more from these screens. I was reading an article that people with the video, they don't interact, they don't get this body language normally, but when you stand up desk, as you feel safe, you use your hand, you can use your expressions, and that's how you connect, and you can actually in a different way rather than all of us in our Skype and Zooms if you all agree, yep. And how's the meeting? Good. We can all, show our body language and then read our language. Oh, fantastic, I feel energized. So to connect with people and to show empathy and all these type of things, stand up. So excellent. So, well, I thought we'd start this week in terms of, like we always do, we finished off last week in terms of reflections and transitioning from towards COVID. And a good way to do that is by sharing what we've learned, what we've read. And I'd like, Phil, to throw it over to you in terms of what's something which you've learned or come across from the past week, which is regarding either transitioning or leadership that you'd like to share with everybody.
Thanks, Sean. Well, I think there's a very strong theme emerging from all the research and the work that's been doing, which confirms something that's been known for some of us for a long time, and that is, there is a myth of working from home is you're not working very hard. In fact, the reality seems to be coming through time and time again is switching off is a really, really big challenge. So the working day gets longer and longer and longer. We've already talked on these calls about Zoom fatigue. And, I think one of the challenges for organizations as they transition to a part working from home, part working from office, will actually just be getting that balance right. And, there was another great article that came from the World Economic Forum, which I saw only this morning, just again reaffirming some of those key concerns.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. It, and in terms of switching off, that's I suppose that's a good reference to why I'm wearing these pajamas. And I read an article coming from a company called, for those who know it, Canva, which it's not a startup anymore, but it's an Australian company that does graphic design software, which is a hugely popular software across the world. And I think they've got 900 employees, I think the article said. And last Friday they had their I think it was a quarterly results or quarterly planning. And they said Friday is going to be Canva Pajama Day, which everybody in the organization in the Zoom were allowed to or encouraged to wear pajamas, which I thought was fantastic because, as I say, people can we say Friday fun day, relax the culture, like I say, putting the people first. So that's where just that mentality of wearing different clothing and just loosening up makes a massive difference to our employee satisfaction and benefits and switching off rather than feeling I have to come to this corporate thing. So there you go. I've encouraged myself to be a Friday to help others, maybe other companies follow suit, reinvent something for your organization, for your employees. And the other thing which this article mentioned too, which I found really important, was, as we talked about companies leading from home, is that they're not only do they have these Friday fun days with pajamas, but they encourage or pay for apps for mindfulness regarding Headspace, Calm, and Smiling Mind. And since all of us from home, can relate to some type of either mental fatigue or mental struggle, to have people who are not even aware of these apps try, Headspace or Smiling Mind, and even ask a company to pay for like a subscription, because I use Headspace and both Calm, in terms of, you know, it's not like you have to do this meditation. It's actually sitting on a bus or sitting at home, listen to a guided meditation to help you relax and breathe, and it makes a massive difference even for 10 minutes, rather than you know, oh, stress, I need to have a drink or take out some other things. So I say be open for other things in terms of just the easy, oh, I need to switch off in my usual standard way. So I thought that was a really good article in terms of companies embracing employee benefits, as well as they're supporting the company, being proactive by looking at preventing things before they get reacting to them. So that was my sort of reflection from this week in terms of learning from some articles. And Madeline, did you come across, well, have you implemented anything in your team, or has anybody from your circles come with anything valuable or new, different, creative?
Well, I think summarizing this week has been exploring the nature around us in order to get down the stress. The walk and talks here in Sweden, we can go out, and that is fine. We are not allowed to be in our offices and so on, and so we're not going to meet any people. But going out for walks and talks in the nature is a great stress reliever. Though this week it's kind of added on stress, as I had a snake encounter with one of my one-to-ones in the forest, and in the next call after. Yeah, for you it's not dangerous because you're used to quite dangerous snakes in Australia, but having a snake encounter is always a bit stressful for me. In the next one-to-one, it was like a joke, but in the next one-to-one, the person I was talking to was chased by a wasp. So all of a sudden, like, we had a quite serious talk, and then she just starts screaming, and I just don't know what happened. So coming from something that should relieve your stress into a situation that kind of adds on the stress has been one of the interesting learnings this week. Nature is not always a stress reliever.
Exactly, yeah. Lucky you don't live in Australia, because if you went for a walk in the woods, you'd probably come across either a dangerous spider, a dangerous snake. What else do we have there? Everything which is dangerous. So yeah, you probably would not be recommended to go for a walk and talk in the Australian outback. Speaking of sharing stuff, I mentioned to you guys last week about how I was doing this high performance program, and part of it was that I had to do an assessment of basically wearing a heart rate monitor for 3 days in a row, including sleep, to measure my heart rate. We call it your heart rate variability. Essentially, how much stress I encounter in my day, and then how much rest I'm doing, so that ideally you should have a balance in terms of, you know, stress and recovery and rest, so that you don't always have this on. And I found my results surprisingly, for somebody who's say quite fit, I have a lot of stress that I don't recharge, and so I'll share this one page on this just to give people some reflections in terms of being mindful of your activities throughout the day, that you have some rest and also recovery, rather than being always switched on, or always you think yourself resting but you're actually not. And let's see if this works. If I share my screen. It's okay. So if you guys can see, let's see if you guys can share this. Can you guys see?
Yes.
My results. So I'm not going to go through so if I share this this screen here, can you see this graph? There's reds and greens and blues.
Mm.
So basically, over a 24-hour period, this heart rate monitor I was wearing, and I don't have to look at all my my habits that I do in the day, but I log in terms of my breakfast, my lunch, and what I do each hour of every 20 minutes of the day. The red is basically where I'm having some type of stress, either physical or work stress. The green is basically where I'm resting and recharging. So your body is like a battery. That red, I'm draining my battery. Green, I'm recharging it. And blue is when I'm doing physical activity. And as you can see, this is probably one of my good days, that I have quite a lot of red and stress throughout the day. But at lunchtime, when I'm eating, I have some green. And then the green is that I'm sleeping quite well in the evening. So that was a good day. But on a day which really surprised me. On this one, you can see that hardly any green. I was like, blue is exercising a lot, so I'm doing a lot of cycling. So I'm basically draining the whole battery and I'm not recharging at all. So if that's whether be it you are working or whether doing fun activity, I'm still literally burning my battery to the max and having stress, which means that if I need to perform at work or in front of my team or just, or at home, I've got no energy, or my cognitive balance or performance is literally shot to pieces, which means that my recovery isn't prioritized. And this is where it's a big learning for me and hopefully other people in terms of either track this or get some advice in terms of reflecting, am I getting enough rest and recovery to offset the stress that I'm doing at work or physical activity? Because over time, we see time and time again, people get burnt out. They think I'm okay, but mentally, that if you're going through this red areas that which I've shown here, you cannot physically or mentally cope with producing your work or being in a nice mood at home. So that was a big highlight for me in terms of like to share in terms of putting myself in the deep end and also just sort of exposing, what I thought I'm resting quite well, but ideally I don't sleep that well. And also I'm cramming too much into my day, and as well as with having a highly active lifestyle, I'm just draining my battery, and also explains why I've been sort of really tired in the evenings and also quite irritable in some evenings and mood swings. So now I'm on the back of this, taking more times, like Madeline talks about, slow walks, not constantly cycling every day, and also finding time in the evenings just to read a book or to switch off. And funnily enough, watching TV isn't green activity. It's not a restful thing. You're getting this bright lights in your eyes or iPhone. So for those people who have some stress, tell them to switch off and also look for some ways to recharge your battery. So
I think this is really interesting. And a question that comes to my mind is there any difference? Do you think this would look different before COVID than as it looks like right now? Has COVID added to your stress?
Actually, this would actually look a lot more red at work because, as we've discussed before, I used to actually physically run between meetings. So we'd have a lot of meetings, and we have a large building at our offices. So I'm running from different parts of the building, back-to-back meetings, and then physically I've got my heart rate racing. But then the meetings you're fully engaged. This would be a lot more red. But I have spikes of red a lot higher than these actually are. So this is probably a good day compared to a bad day in the office. So this is where I'm glad I did this during COVID, because I wouldn't have done this if I didn't have COVID, because I wouldn't have even heard about this assessment, and I'll just keep on going like most people as per normal, and then wait for me to have a breakdown or realize I've hit the wall, and then you'll sort of be reactive. So I'm glad I've actually caught this, because of I need to have more time in the evenings with rest, and I thought TV was resting, but it's not. And also realize that even though I thought sport is actually improving my health, it's not improving if I'm not doing active rest. And that's where I think that work and sport are the same things. That putting stress on your body, as opposed to looking at, you could do sport but do it in a nice way, like either like a light swim or say an easy walk. So it's really looking at things in terms of the impact on your body, and most of the time it's your heart rate, which impacts how you think and how you behave with your team members, your your clients, of your clients, for other customers. So it's a massive thing in terms of your brain only has so much energy that to expel. So this is a really important thing to take note of, everybody.
It's an interesting, Madeline, you asked an interesting question there about, do you think this would be different at the time of COVID? I was picking up a radio interview earlier this week, and these people have been studying dreams, because they picked it up anecdotally that people were having the most vivid and weirdest of dreams recently. And being good researchers, they then went and did some Google and discovered that a lot of people seem to be experiencing really weird and very vivid dreams at this moment during this COVID time. So I think, so half of this, so talk about rest. Is the rest being impacted by COVID? Well, anecdotal evidence suggests that it probably is, and that people are not relaxing as much because of maybe this underlying stresses with the uncertainty that the COVID thing has created. And then the second piece that certainly organizations that I'm working with have been actively communicating is they're saying, and this is just really building on Sean's point, is restrict the amount of television you watch.
Yeah.
TV news does not relax you.
No,
In
exactly.
fact, TV news at the moment in most countries around the world just results in most people wanting to throw a brick through their television.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing, and Greg Orme refers to this in his book, The Human Edge, is that television companies need to fill news channels.
Yeah.
And there isn't a lot changing from 1 hour to the next, even from one day to the next. So be a lot more careful on the amount of time that you use on television, and also social media. Social media is an incredible stealer of time. Yeah. Neither of which I would imagine bring any form of relaxation at all, which is exactly what Sean seems to have picked up in his own study here.
No, exactly, and this you can see here. I put this arrow. This red bit there here is like you'll see here. This is 45 minutes of TV time, which I was actually watching a really enjoyable TV series. So I'm thinking, great, this is going to look good on my results. But you can see that this is all red. So it's not even blue. It's actually red in terms of that activity is draining my battery. So, and this is a weekday at work in terms of you can see that I'm getting emails and I'm doing video calls. So if you, like most of us in COVID, if anything, most of us are probably hitting red because regardless of good or bad meeting, it's stimulus to our brain, which is draining the battery. And the only way you're going to get some green and recharging is in the evening. And that's where if more TV time, which is more basically still reflection, you are going day after day, draining your battery, which we all know that is just going to end in a bad way. So really, really recommend people to find research ways of, and get off your phones, get off your TVs, do things, either go out in nature, go for walks, talk to your family or friends, but don't look at screens. And as you said, Phil, don't look at the newspaper, do something fun, read something which you enjoy, which I'm going to put, which gave me one link that I want to talk to you about how do I respond to this. There's a website that I'll put in the notes for people to recommend. For those who love beaches that we've got here, there's a website from Australia called Aquabumps, and they have an awesome Instagram daily feed where they have a picture of a beach that this photographer shows every day around the world, and most of them Australia. But that's that relaxation of looking at a really cool beach, sometimes a surfer, sometimes of Italy. That's a really good way of relaxation and switching off. So if you do social media, fill it with relaxation on nature pictures like our pictures, rather than scrolling through news or negative stuff, as you say, Phil. So there you go. So that was my massive insight, which to me, it's talking about new habits. This really has created some new habits, which I've instilled in terms of downtime, as well as looking at how I balance my life, which to everybody else, if you haven't heard about this Fitbit assessment, I'll put it in a link in the website to the show notes, so you can find out. Like everything else, time flies. I just like to quickly, Phil, you mentioned last week about something that I see from Greg Orme's book, curiosity. You have something to share on that with leaders in terms of some curiosity habits. Do you want to just share briefly on what you've, some advice on that?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of good things. I'll tell you what I'm going to do though. I also was curious that Madeline had her hand up. So before you feed me that question, let's hear from Madeline, and then I'll share that curiosity piece.
Actually, I had my hand up. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I had an interesting reflection on what you were saying in terms of stress and what you weren't expecting. My reflection is in regards to summer coming up and the vacation time, and I think vacation being a lot different than we're used to. So many of us will be having a vacation at home. Yeah. How do you think that will impact the stress level? Will we be able to get sort of the relaxation that we need and the recharge for the autumn to come? or will the stress level still be there after vacation?
I think I'll give you a response. I think this will be very much down to personal discipline. It will mean literally putting the laptop away, and taking out the email app from your mobile phone, because otherwise it will just be all too easy to make another day be like one of the ones before. So it'll be down to you, and it'll be down to your habits. And again, take advantage of the spouse here. I'm blessed with a spouse that is relentless in ensuring that when it's rest time, it's rest time. And if your spouse can do you the same favor, really thank them, celebrate it, put the stuff away. If you can't get away, and for many of us that's likely to be the reality, then what you have to do is distance yourself from your work habits that you've developed over these last few months.
That's a really good point. I think in the next couple of episodes, let's share some habits of how people can, even with ours, what are we going to be doing in the holidays, or some recommendations, because it's all too easy that if you're going to be in your home and I'll just do some work on the laptop, and as I say, in 2 months' time, I don't know how much holiday you have, you go back to work going, where's the time gone? And that's where I think it's super important to even transform your home office. With that, I know Phil, you've talked about having a special place for a home office, but summertime transform into something completely different so that the office is closed. Because when we leave holidays in the normal office, we don't go back there. So somehow impose the same type of discipline, as you say, at home, because otherwise, it's going to be a long year of constant always on, which my stress shows.
So
so Phil,
curiosity. So Simon Sinek in his book, says the best leaders ask the most questions, and this is a recurring theme that I'm seeing in a lot of books. And not only do the best leaders ask the most questions, but by asking a lot of questions, that you are giving permission to your teams to ask questions in turn. Communication, as George Bernard Shaw said, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion it's taken place. But people are reluctant to put their hand up and say, but what did you really mean? But if a leader can role model that behavior and ask questions, it's a great way of encouraging others to do it. It's a great way of encouraging curiosity. And there are some super questions, curiosity questions that Greg alludes to in his book, and I think that they're going to be a theme for us over the next few weeks. Like a lovely question, what are you learning now? What a super question. What are you learning now? So that how can I learn from you? And he talked about Leonardo da Vinci, who in his memoirs and his notes, constantly says, I must talk to this engineer about this. I must talk to this botanist about this. I must talk to this architect about this. I must talk to this mathematician about this. He knew that he didn't have the answers, but by keeping going out and asking questions, that's how he continued to learn and grow and develop and become the genius that he was.
Yeah, that's a really good point about, I know places like Google and all these other companies that have courses, they're advocating discounts and things, but at the end of the day, still use this time to learn, either learn new things or improve things that you actually want to learn, or as people reflecting, if you're not in a job that you like, learn the time to learn the stuff that you want for your next job, rather than the staying put in terms of that's just the way it is. So, and it pushes back to curiosity.
Superb. So I'm conscious of time.
Yep, and I'm saying, and I want to, and I just want to quickly, to pick up curiosity, I want people to be curious about Madeline's cooking skills. I promised it. Last week, Madeline, you talked about your birthday parties and birthdays. First of all, how did the birthdays go? Any Coldplay appearances or parties? What happened?
No, no Coldplay appearances. I wish. I wish, really, truly. But they went well. Actually, today is my oldest daughter's 10-year-old birthday. She was more than excited. Woke up really early, of course, as you should on your birthday. Um, we coming in with cakes and singing as we usually do here in Sweden. I made 2 mini cakes, because that's our tradition. So if you're curious of how they look like, you can visit my, maybe you have one of them. Yes, that's some more.
People who don't know you work for a bank. Now, so people, Madeline is not a baker, and this is what she can do in her spare time. So this is what amazed me, that talk about, if you ever get sick of banking, Madeline, open up a bakery, because some of these cakes is like, my God, how do you make that?
Thank you, Sean.
And that's the obviously it was a popular one in your family.
Yeah. But that's a content. Yeah, if you're curious or more, you're more than welcome to visit my Insta page, Mad Bakery.
I was seeing some of the cakes here. I looked it up. You can't really see, but yeah, go Mad is in the Mad MAD Bakery. If you see something in this cake, I still can't look at it now. It's like, how do you cook like this and you work, and this is your social activity. So fantastic stuff.
Stress reliever. For me, that's doing something with my hands. That's doing something else, and that relieves me from stress. And adding a bit of extra stress, maybe when my kids want to help, but it's a nice way of doing
good family activity.
Mm.
Fantastic. Well, that leads us to so on that really happy and also now I'm really hungry weekend. What have you both got planned for this weekend, other than your birthday party for your daughter, Madeline? Start with you.
Well, actually, the birthday bonanza continues, and since COVID, we don't have too many plans, to be honest. So a small birthday cake, or 2 bigger birthday cakes to be eaten in the garden. That's the plans for the weekend.
Nice. Well, at least a little relaxing. So go back to finish off in trying to encouraging, relaxing, and recharging. Excellent. So, and Phil, what exciting stuff you got for the weekend?
Actually, I'm going to carry on with the baking theme. So this month we're doing some stuff to support lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans support, showing that we're allies of this. And we are having a bake-off competition with one of my clients, and with my wife's help, we're going to be making a rainbow cake.
Fantastic.
I will share the photographs of it with you next week.
Yeah, please do. We can have Madeline judge you like a master chef.
I'm excited to see them.
It's going to be this is all about showing our support for minorities, which I think, in all serious note, in a week where we have seen just how minorities can be so badly treated. I think sometimes people blessed like us need to do a little bit to actually show that it's a lot more than just lip service. So
agree.
Exactly, and I think as we talk about leading from home, is just leading in general in terms of this Blackout Tuesday, and as well as we've seen, and when you say minorities, that everybody needs to take a stand in terms of supporting if all these things are going on, because if we don't speak up, then they go out unnoticed. And I think every small bit we can do to support this and to publicise it, particularly like of these times, then every bit helps. So fantastic. And for me, like every Saturday, it's going to be barbecue time. The barbecue is going to be turned on tomorrow. So like you say, Madeline, we can't get out too much, but thankfully the barbecue is out on the balcony. So and of course, I'll be doing my cycling for 3 or 4 hours. So family time and then cycle time. So looking forward to it. Nice weather. So it should be good. Well, guys, thank you. Been really another great knowledge sharing, and I hope people have been inspired by stand-up desk, cooking, bakeries, and some curiosity. So be curious on the weekend, find some new things, recharge, relax, don't be too stressed. And next week we come back with some more new things to share with you and help you lead from home in a more improved, better way. Have a nice weekend, guys.
Cheerio.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.